Well met, everyone. I am Rich the Lich. What I'm going to show you today is how I would start a campaign, basically. How do we take something as grand in scale in the scope of EBERRON, 400 pages plus of Dragon Grin? How do we actually take that, or how do I take that, I should say, and actually get a session going? Reading EBERRON, okay? And I've got D&D Beyond interface. I've got the wonderful alternate cover art book and stuff like this. And reading 425 pages of Dragon Grin. That's all well and good. It's inspiring. I'm excited. And that's paramount. That's important. Run a world and play in something that gets you jazzed up, that gets you excited, because that becomes contagious. If your PCs know that you as the DM are excited about running this game, running this campaign, they're going to get excited about making characters within that world as well. So find something that resonates with you. But you've got to get something to the table. And that's kind of what I'm trying to show here in this video, is kind of closing that gap between the large scale of 300 plus pages of EBERRON and where the hell do I begin? How do I take this and get it into a session? Because it's always going to look good and sound good on paper. But once you get it to the table, all of a sudden you start to realize what works and what doesn't work. And you can kind of wrangle your way through that a little more efficiently when you're actually churning through some gameplay stuff. So how do we take this? What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a 2-page PDF here. You'll notice in a moment I'm going to read through why am I doing this in PDF format. I'm not just showing you this and revealing this because I'm doing a video. This is the process that I go through. Okay, so let's scroll through. And really quick, here's a piece of artwork. It's outstanding. It's wonderful. I reached out to some time ago Cole Eastburn. I don't know if he still is, but he was or is a senior artist at Blizzard. So obviously, looking at the artwork, we're looking at one of the professional concept artists here. I reached out to him some time ago, and since I'm not monetizing this and whatnot, he allowed me use of this wonderful piece of artwork for sort of demo purposes on video. So thanks a bunch, Cole. So here's this piece of artwork. I'll talk through this in a moment. Here's the first few steps. I'm going to read some of this, and then some of it, think of this as sort of your PowerPoint presentation where I'll use the bullet points in various words to kind of inform where I'm going to go as I start to ramble to you. All right. I lay it out professionally because it gives me a sense of design, detail, and most importantly, it allows my creative energy to flow better. Yes, this is for my group, and yes, it's for my table of friends and family only, but the professionalism adds a sense of seriousness and respect to the entire process and result. I take the time that I'm asking of my friends every other Saturday night very, very seriously. In today's world, they can go out there and play video games. They can do other things with their time. So I take that with a great deal of respect and seriousness. And that transfers into the amount of work and effort I put into it. And I hope, and it does happen, my players reciprocate and they give that same amount of effort in their involvement within the game. Okay, so by laying it out in sort of published format in Adobe InDesign, by laying it out in page format, it also, I think more importantly, I'm not just approaching this from the perspective of a dungeon master and someone playing a role-playing game. I have to always approach this from a design level. I'm a creative design, artistic type of person first and foremost before I'm a dungeon master. Now I've got some bullet points. The guy on the cover is the big bad evil guy. He's kind of as Strahd is to Curse of Strahd. He'll pester the PCs early on, and he'll make his presence known through minions and whatnot, but that's about it in session 1. All right? I may not show this picture to them, but this guy starts to inform me as to where I want to go with my initial session and my initial story. So that's the first thing I do. Yes, I lay it out professionally. Yes, I've already had sort of session 0 and the brief talk through email or text of, hey guys, I'm thinking of running an EBERRON, because that informs the players what character types they might want to make. After that, though, I need to find a piece of artwork. It doesn't have to be a guy or a creature. It can be a building. It can be a location, whatever, a landscape piece. It doesn't even have to be within the realms of fantasy. It can be something very modern. It can be just a screenshot from The Fifth Element, the Bruce Willis movie. Okay, it doesn't matter if it fits within the genre or it fits within the style and the flow. Something is going to inspire you. This artwork resonated with me. So I always find a picture first. That gets the creative juices going. All right? Now, he's the big bad guy. I know he's going to be some insane high CR 25 CR thing. So obviously there's not going to be a direct fight with him in session 1. But As I said, he may be kind of as Strahd is. He's going to start to inform a little bit of the direction of the campaign. Next thing I want to do is I want to find an underling. This guy obviously screams undead to me. So I know that number one, my players are murder hobos. They love combat. I want to just get through 6 hours of my gameplay. I want to get through 6 hours of my session. I know one good way to chunk through that time is a really well fleshed out and just a really good, cool encounter. So because this guy's kind of undead, what I'll do now is I'll go over into D&D Beyond and I'll go onto my monster tab and I will simply filter. I'm fortunate that I have the legendary bundle, so I have everything that's been officially released. I'll filter by undead, I'll filter by CR, and I can start looking through. What monsters do I want to use? I know I want something a little more intelligent based, so I'm not trying to get Walking Dead and using zombies and such. I may use skeletons, but kind of ramp up their tactical ability in combat, indicating that maybe they're a little more intelligent, okay? But by going through this, I find this. Similar to what I did with that front cover art, I'm just looking for pretty pictures. Here he is. He's CR1. I like this thing. I know this is an indentured spirit from Ravnica. It doesn't matter that it's from another world. Do whatever you want with it, okay? Obviously, at some point, I'm going to copy this stat block through, but this guy is now telling me that he's sort of the underling. He's the boss of the minions, and he works directly under the guy on the front cover, this dude. But by having an underling, I have some sort of potential boss fight coming up within the first 3 sessions that my PCs can actually handle now. Okay? So I have that indentured spirit guy. I'll take that piece of artwork. That may be the actual artwork I'll show to my PCs, not this guy. All right? But I found my underling. I've created an encounter. Maybe the underling is kind of the boss that's sitting around in the back, and then he's got a bunch of little skeletons that the PCs have to fight through. Tell them of the curse. That's just something I came up with by looking at this guy. This reminds me of the mummy and things like this, right? So, number one, when I tell the PCs of the curse, also attach it to the PCs. Start getting this overall cool. This is kind of where we close the gap between the big picture. It sounds really cool on paper. I've got some really cool ideas in this book. But how do we relate it to the PCs today, now, in tonight's session? The curse is how I relate it. He's responsible for some curse. And I'm directly attaching it to, if I play 9 players, which I do, I might give it to 3 or 4 of my PCs. Almost half of my group has this curse. Now, it may not be an actual gameplay mechanical thing they need to track right now. I don't want to create a situation where my PCs are already feeling like they're climbing uphill. All right, I want to give them some freedom. But I'm going to kind of hand wave it and DM speak and basically say, hey guys, you don't have any exhaustion. You don't need to roll for exhaustion. But you're feeling like pretty soon here, if you don't start investigating this curse and trying to fix it soon, you're going to start rolling a d4 at the end of every long rest. And the result is how much exhaustion you have for the day. That's terrible. That is massively debilitating. Okay? But by telling them that and also indicating up front, this is not happening right now. You're not rolling d4s right now. It gives a level of severity to the situation, and it's basically indicating in hints from the DM, hey guys, as the DM, I'm telling you, don't ignore this. It's going to become a problem. But it's attached it directly to the PCs, and now what it's done is by creating that horrible potential situation coming up. Number one is I didn't give them an exact timeline. It may happen at the end of this first session. It's probably not going to. Right? I know behind the scenes about when it's going to happen. Now, it's kind of like punishment and consequence. Don't threaten it and not apply it. If they ignore it for the first 3 gameplay sessions because they want to go off and do their own thing, that's fine. But if they start to ignore it, hey, you two, roll d4. Cool. You have 3 exhaustion today, you have 4. They're kind of useless for the day. Right? And it doesn't matter if they say, you know what, I don't want the curse on this character. Can I just kill him and start and make a new character? Cool. That new character has the curse instead. You're kind of indicating to them, look into the curse. All right? Next, give them a common NPC. Notice I have 5 bullet points. That's all I need. These 5 bullet points become, and I always make 5. So you make 5. 5 bullet points become the 5 anchors upon which my first session is grounded. And it doesn't matter what session I'm running. Every session, I always create 5 bullet points. Sometimes I may copy and paste if the curse may be a bullet point that's going to exist through multiple sessions, right? Because I don't want them to get rid of it that quickly, especially if I'm not going to have the consequences of it, meaning the D4 roll, happen that quickly. I can have it, the potential threat of it linger a lot longer. So there may be some bullet points that you copy and paste, but always create 5 anchor points, all right? So I told them of the curse. Next, I want to give them a common NPC. This is something, again, that attaches the PCs to the world, and it also gives them some cohesion. It gives them something in the group that they want to deal with. They're on the same page, right? It's kind of, the common NPC becomes sort of the living, breathing tavern, if you will. Next, the last one is I give them something to care about. Okay, then I attach that care to the underling or the big bad enemy guy. I've already done that. Sometimes these can weave in within each other. By telling them of the curse, I've given them something to care about. Half of the PCs are cursed. They need to deal with that. Now, what I'll do next is I start to answer the PC questions before they're asked. This is what happens in prep time. Do they get to fight the underling? Yes, they do. But perhaps he's not going to happen in this session. Perhaps it'll be the next session or two. And regardless of when they fight him within this session or the next 2 or 3, he's going to escape. What's the big bad enemy guy's name? The guy on the front cover, this guy. His name is Kavas, the Lord of Rot. I don't know where that's going to go, but he has a name. It starts to get me in my prep time thinking through there's more to him than meets the eye. What's the underling's name? That indentured spirit thing. His name is Ankazi Drun. Remember, these are questions that I anticipate my PCs are going to ask. So I'm going to have these answers as they are here. Can they remove the curse? If so, where? Yes, they can. Greater Restoration can do it. That's going to be a big question they're definitely going to ask. Where? Someone in Sharn can do it. I might want to have them start about 100 miles from Sharn. That way, 100 miles, when you're at level 1 and they maybe don't have any mounts and they're just traveling by foot, it lets them know that there's some hope out there, but you're not going to get to Sharn and you're not going to get to the resources necessary to remove your curse within the next session or 2. This is going to linger for a while. Who's the common NPC? It is a Mark of Warding dwarf named Bruno. That informs me immediately that now I give a little more regional info. Notice I start zooming in my big picture of EBERRON and I start to zoom things down a little bit. Now they may be starting in some area that has a lot of dwarves, the Mark of Warding dwarves. It gives me some spaces that in prep time I can now read through about the Mark of Warding, about the dwarves of these certain regions, the Moror holds or whatever you want to call it. Okay, maybe that's the region they start in. These bullet points start giving me direction of where I can go. And what do they care about? All right, well, there's a door to an ancient vault that's been breached. My initial thought with this was I was thinking Harry Potter stuff and Gringotts. Okay, evidence on the door is like the hunter finding torn cloth on a branch of someone they're tracking. So there was some ragged cloth that was found at the door, as though whoever breached and entered this vault, as though they barely got in and they got out, but they caught themselves on something of the door frame or something like that, and it ripped off some of their clothing. Since it's the only evidence that was around, that was investigated, and what it's done is it's revealed the link to the underling, the indentured spirit. There's something about this guy's garments. Perhaps this is just some ancient cloth of a textile and nature that feels old world. It feels a little older than something that exists now. Right? You find some textile merchant, some fabric guy, whoever, right? A seamstress or something like this, NPC, and they tell you, I've never seen cloth like this before. Like, this is ancient mummial wrap. Wait, mummial? Ancient burial wrap stuff, ancient mummy wrap stuff. And that's the only evidence they have. Now, the PCs care because this door is looked after by Bruno. Okay, Bruno can be, he's the common NPC. He's the guy that's always taken care of them. He's always fed them. He's the guy that has always sort of been like a fatherly figure to them. So the entire group is now attached to the storyline because they care about what Bruno cares about. This is the door that's looked after by Bruno. If they can help him get to the bottom of who the hell breached this thing, he'll get to keep his job. And also, most importantly, Bruno will no longer be considered a suspect. The Mark of Warding leaders believe that Bruno may have something to do with the fact that this ancient vault was breached and something important was stolen from it. So Bruno becomes the quest NPC that asks the PCs, hey, can you look into this? But all I have is this cloth. That's all I found. That's the only evidence we have. Look into it. And maybe within the first session, session 2, session 3, they have a fight. And they notice that the underling has a similar cloth. And everything is attached to this. I don't know where this is going to go yet. It's the visuals that are sparking this. But there's something that eventually will reveal this guy as the ancient lord of rot, the ancient lord of all mummies. That's kind of where I'm going. And that's how I'm starting my session. I know I have a fight. I know I told them about the curse. I know I have Bruno and the Mark of Warding and a common NPC. I've given them some reason to care about all of this. And I have an underling, a boss fight, if you will. But maybe that's created a second fight. The underling's minions are the first fight, the undead forces. And the PC start to realize, wait a minute, we're going to start dealing with a lot of undead for a while. Right? It informs what items they might want to start looking for. It informs the clerics of, okay, beyond your toes here, we have the option to use a lot of turn undead stuff. Or perhaps the PCs realize we don't have any clerics and paladins. We need to deal with undead, what NPCs might we be able to look for? So on and so forth. And then maybe there's a second fight with the underling, but he escapes. So it starts to fill up some time. Okay? So what cool parts on the PC character sheets directly relate to my notes? That's some questions I want to start asking. Who are the best fighters? They're going to thrive during these encounters. Which PCs are really good about, maybe someone's playing a cloistered scholar background, and maybe they start delving into some large tomes, and they start learning a little bit more about undead and mummies and things like this, and about the ancient cloth. And now they start asking questions about what seamstress can we go find that knows more about this, so on and so forth. Okay? The path along the storyline starts to write itself. But what other paths might lie ahead? I want to start thinking of some other branches. Maybe the PCs don't want to deal with this undead storyline. All I need to do is find another picture and present that for session 2, and we'll go that way. And eventually something's going to stick. And as I indicated, you're going to start getting bullet points. Of the 5 you want to create for every session, some bullet points are going to linger and last. And you can start copying and pasting them. And that's where you start building up some continuity. And that's all you're going to do, is just focus on those 5 bullet points. And eventually you stack 5 bullet points, or you create off of 5 bullet points, they create a session. You start stacking session after session on top of one another. And that is how you create a campaign. And that, my friends, is how I go through the process of taking the larger-than-life picture of EBERRON and the entirety of this book and figuring out where I want to go and what I can get to the table. I hope this video provided a bit of assistance in your creative journey. That's all I have for you folks. Thanks everyone for watching, and take care.